That morning, the atmosphere at Crystal Brew Cafe was bustling, located in the heart of downtown, where busy and successful professionals gathered. The cafe was renowned for its elegant ambience and top-tier service. Inside, the tables were neatly arranged with pristine white tablecloths, and crystal chandeliers cast a warm yet sophisticated glow over the space. Sarah, the cafe manager, took pride in maintaining the quality and reputation of Crystal Brew. Dressed impeccably in a tailored business suit and armed with a sharp gaze, she managed every detail, from how her staff served customers to the quality of each cup of coffee. Yet beneath her polished exterior, Sarah harbored deep biases, particularly against customers she believed didn't fit the high-end image of the cafe. That morning, amidst the rush of patrons, a black man in a sophisticated suit walked into the cafe. He was Nathaniel Brooks, a figure few recognized in person despite his frequent presence in the media. With his tall stature and composed stride, Nathaniel exuded an aura of authority and respect. On his way to an important meeting, he decided to stop by the cafe to recharge, a place he had heard praised by colleagues. From behind the counter, Sarah immediately noticed his presence. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. He looks wealthy, but is he really the type of customer this cafe caters to? She thought, her prejudice clouding her judgment. Nathaniel approached the counter with a polite smile and asked, "Good morning. I'd like a cappuccino, please, with a sprinkle of cinnamon." Sarah replied with a cold tone, "We don't serve cheap coffee here. Are you sure you're in the right place?" A moment of silence followed. Other patrons began to turn their attention to the exchange. Nathaniel's brow furrowed slightly, but he remained composed. "I believe I am in the right place," he said calmly. "I'm willing to pay whatever the price is for a cappuccino." Sarah paid no heed to Nathaniel's politeness. Instead, she continued with her condescending attitude. "I just want to make sure you're not here to cause trouble. Some people tend to use places like this to look for opportunities." Her malicious words created a palpable tension in the cafe. A few customers stopped their conversations and turned their attention toward the counter. Nearby staff felt awkward but didn't dare to intervene. Nathaniel remained composed, though his expression grew more serious. He replied, "I'm simply here to enjoy a cup of coffee in peace. If there's an issue, feel free to explain it to me." Instead of listening, Sarah gave him a mocking look. She smirked slightly and turned to a nearby employee. "Make a cappuccino, but hurry up. I don't want someone like him staying here too long." Her words were enough to make a few customers visibly uncomfortable. A young woman discreetly began recording the interaction on her phone. When Nathaniel received his coffee, he nodded politely in thanks and walked to a table near the window. But Sarah wasn't finished. Just a few minutes later, Sarah approached Nathaniel's table with a scowl on her face. "Excuse me, but I think you should leave. We don't want our other customers to feel uncomfortable." Nathaniel set down his cup of coffee, his expression one of surprise. "I don't understand, ma'am. I'm just sitting here drinking coffee, like everyone else." Unable to control her irrational anger, Sarah grabbed his coffee cup and threw it directly at him, the hot liquid splashing everywhere. Nathaniel's pained cry echoed through the cafe, leaving everyone stunned. "Get out of my cafe now," Sarah shouted. Nathaniel stood up, his face red from the hot coffee, but instead of yelling back, he fixed Sarah with a cold, piercing stare. Without a word, he turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving behind a heavy silence that blanketed the room. As soon as Nathaniel left, the cafe descended into chaos. Several customers stood up to confront Sarah. "What do you think you're doing? That was blatant racism." The cafe staff looked confused and unsure of what to do. Some tried to clean the table and floor where the coffee had spilled. The young waitress who had recorded the incident on her phone decided to post the video on social media with the caption, "Cafe manager throws coffee at customer in racist outburst." Within an hour, the video had garnered thousands of views and comments. Outrage from the online community erupted, with many calling for a boycott of the cafe, while others sought to identify the man in the video. As for Sarah, she began to grow uneasy as her phone buzzed incessantly with messages and calls. The cafe owner demanded an immediate explanation. But what Sarah didn't realize was the true identity of the man she had just insulted. That evening, Sarah returned home in a state of unease. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from the owner of Crystal Brew, messages from friends, and even numbers she didn't recognize flooded her screen. She decided to ignore them all, hoping the storm would pass. But Sarah was wrong. The next morning, she woke up with a heavy feeling. Scrolling through her phone, she was stunned to see that the video of the incident at the cafe had gone viral across social media platforms. Headlines like "Cafe Manager's Racist Outburst" and "Black Man Insulted at Luxury Cafe" dominated news feeds. Worse, the internet had quickly uncovered the identity of the man in the video. Sarah's heart sank as she read an article titled, "Man Targeted in Racist Incident Revealed as Governor Nathaniel Brooks." Nathaniel Brooks. The name echoed like thunder in Sarah's mind. As a cafe manager, she didn't closely follow political news, but even she knew of him. He was the first black governor of the state, renowned for his bold reforms on racial equality and human rights. Nathaniel was a figure respected by both allies and political opponents alike. A wave of guilt and fear swept over Sarah. She hadn't just insulted an ordinary customer. She had humiliated a man with immense influence and a powerful public presence. Meanwhile, at his office, Governor Nathaniel Brooks was inundated with hundreds of messages from the public, human rights organizations, and the media. Everyone wanted to know how he would respond to the discriminatory treatment he faced at the cafe. The owner of Crystal Brew Cafe, Charles Donovan, couldn't remain silent. He summoned Sarah to his office immediately to address the crisis. In the office, the tension was palpable. Sarah sat across from Charles, her face pale, while the cafe owner repeatedly slammed his hand on the desk. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You haven't just destroyed this cafe's reputation. You've put us at risk of a lawsuit," Charles exclaimed. Sarah mumbled, I didn't realize he was the governor. I just acted on instinct." Charles interrupted sharply. "It doesn't matter who he is. You acted in a blatantly racist manner, and that's unacceptable. We need to act immediately before this gets any worse." Charles announced that he would hire an internal investigation team to review the incident. He also informed Sarah that she would be placed on temporary leave while the investigation was underway. Meanwhile, some of the cafe staff began providing information to the investigation team. Many admitted that Sarah had previously displayed unfair behavior toward other customers of color. A young server even recounted an incident where Sarah had scolded an elderly man simply because he wore simple clothing when entering the cafe. At the same time, Governor Nathaniel's legal team began collecting evidence, including the video of the incident and statements from witnesses. It was clear that this situation was rapidly escalating, and the consequences for Sarah and the cafe could be severe. A few days later, Governor Nathaniel officially issued a statement during a press conference. Standing before dozens of reporters and cameras, he appeared calm yet commanding. Faint red marks from the hot coffee were still visible on his face. The incident at Crystal Brew Cafe was not just a personal affront, but a clear manifestation of racism in our society. I cannot stand by and let such behavior go unchecked. Therefore, I have decided to file a lawsuit against the cafe and its manager for acts of violence and discrimination. The press conference room erupted with a flurry of questions from reporters. Governor Nathaniel's decision to pursue legal action garnered widespread support from the community. Meanwhile, Sarah and Crystal Brew Cafe faced overwhelming pressure. Social media posts continued to flood with criticism of Sarah. Human rights organizations and even prominent politicians voiced their support for Governor Nathaniel. The court hearing was scheduled quickly. At the trial, Governor Nathaniel's legal team presented compelling evidence, including the video footage, witness testimonies, and proof of Sarah's prior discriminatory behavior toward other customers. The atmosphere in the courtroom reflected the gravity of the case, as it had become a focal point in the fight against racism and prejudice. As the trial unfolded, public pressure on Crystal Brew Cafe continued to mount. Loyal customers began boycotting the establishment, with many calling for its permanent closure. Meanwhile, Sarah fell into a state of despair. She received hundreds of threatening messages from the public, and some even showed up at her home, forcing her to move out to avoid harassment. The backlash wasn't limited to Sarah alone. The cafe itself became a target, with demands for accountability. Social organizations organized protests outside the cafe, holding signs calling for justice for Governor Nathaniel and advocating for changes in how the cafe treated its customers. Amid the chaos, Governor Nathaniel remained composed. He emphasized that his goal was not just to seek justice for himself but to raise societal awareness about the pervasive issue of racism. As the chapter closed, one looming question remained. Would Sarah come to terms with her mistakes and work to change? Or would she continue to drown in the hostility of public outrage? Sarah sat quietly in her small apartment, the light from a single desk lamp casting a dim glow over her weary face. She had lost everything: her job, her reputation, and the confidence she had once prided herself on. Yet, in the solitude of those moments, Sarah began to reflect on her past and the path that had led her to her actions that day. Sarah grew up in a conservative family in the suburbs, where racist attitudes were considered normal. Her parents often spoke about their prejudices against black people during family dinners, emphasizing that white people must protect their position in society. These words left a deep imprint on Sarah's mind, shaping her worldview. When Sarah graduated college and began her career, she tried to maintain a polite and professional demeanor. Yet, the racist beliefs instilled in her from childhood lingered beneath the surface. She had never realized how deeply they influenced her daily interactions and decisions. After the incident at the cafe, Sarah was forced for the first time to confront the things she had once considered normal. The public outrage made her feel like a monster, but deep down, she knew that if she wanted to move forward, she needed to change. One day, Sarah decided to write an apology letter to Governor Nathaniel Brooks. In the letter, she wrote, "Dear Governor, I know that this apology cannot undo the harm I caused. I deeply regret my actions, which insulted you and others, rooted in prejudices I hadn't even realized I carried. What happened that day made me realize that I need to change. I was wrong, and I want to learn how to make amends. If you are willing, I would greatly appreciate the chance to make things right. Sincerely, Sarah *. Although she wasn't sure if Governor Nathaniel would read the letter, Sarah felt it was something she needed to do. She then began searching for educational and community organizations focused on racial equality and social justice. Sarah enrolled in a social justice course at a community center. For the first time, she listened to the stories of Black individuals, stories filled with pain and injustice they faced daily. She met people like Marcus, a young Black man who had been denied jobs because of his skin color, and Mrs. Gloria, a teacher who had endured discrimination her entire life. Each story became a powerful lesson. Sarah slowly realized that prejudice wasn't just a personal issue but a systemic problem that affected society as a whole. While Sarah was working to change, Governor Nathaniel Brooks continued his journey advocating for justice. He received hundreds of letters from supporters, sharing their stories and thanking him for standing against racism. In an interview with a major newspaper, Nathaniel spoke about his journey. "I was born into a poor family in the South, where I watched my parents work tirelessly just to make ends meet. I faced racism from a very young age, from being mocked by peers to being denied entry into schools simply because of my skin color. But I always believed that instead of letting these injustices break me, I had to turn them into motivation to rise above." Nathaniel recounted how he overcame adversity to graduate from college and pursue a career in politics. He also shared his reasoning behind suing Sarah and the cafe. "This isn't about me personally. It's about society as a whole. If we don't stand up, Actions like these will continue and harm countless innocent people. Nathaniel's story became a source of inspiration for millions. Yet what few people knew was that he still kept Sarah's apology letter. One day, Sarah received an unexpected call from Nathaniel's office. His secretary informed her that the governor wanted to meet with her. In a quiet room at the governor's office, Sarah faced Nathaniel for the first time since the incident. Her heart raced with fear and regret. But when she saw Nathaniel's calm and composed expression, she knew she needed to be honest. "Governor, I'm deeply sorry for my actions. I have no excuse. I just want you to know that I'm trying to change." Nathaniel nodded, studying her intently before speaking. "I received your letter. I appreciate your remorse. But remorse isn't enough. You need to take action." He introduced Sarah to a nonprofit organization he supported, one dedicated to helping people who had experienced injustice and discrimination. He told her that if she was truly committed to making amends, she could start by helping others. Overcome with emotion, Sarah began to cry. She hadn't expected that. Instead of punishing her, Nathaniel would offer her a chance to make things right. From that moment on, Sarah began working at the organization. She assisted people who had faced injustice, listened to their stories, and learned how to become a better person. It was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one of understanding, growth, and redemption. The trial between Governor Nathaniel Brooks and Crystal Brew Cafe, along with Sarah individually, took place in a solemn courtroom under intense public and media scrutiny. Dozens of reporters crowded outside the courthouse, while social activists stood nearby holding signs with powerful messages like, "Justice for all" and "End racism now." Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Sarah, dressed in a modest suit, sat with her head lowered in the defendant's row. She couldn't bring herself to look at Nathaniel, who sat a short distance away, exuding calm authority with every movement. Nathaniel's lawyer began presenting the case, providing irrefutable evidence. The video capturing the entire incident, witness testimonies from those present at the cafe, and previous accusations from staff about Sarah's discriminatory behavior. The lawyer emphasized, the actions of the defendant, Sarah, were not merely a personal insult but a reflection of a larger societal issue, the persistence of prejudice and racism. "We are not only seeking justice for my client, but also sending a powerful message that such behavior will not be tolerated." When it was Sarah's turn, she stood up, visibly nervous and filled with remorse. Struggling to find her words, she finally spoke. I have no excuse for my actions. I was wrong, and I have come to realize that. I only ask for a chance to make amends and learn from my mistakes." Her apology brought a brief silence to the courtroom, while her words couldn't undo the harm she had caused. The sincerity in her tone and expression moved some in the room, hinting at genuine regret. In the end, the court delivered its verdict. Sarah was ordered to participate in a community rehabilitation program and attend mandatory social justice education courses. Crystal Brew Cafe was fined a substantial amount and required to implement new hiring and training processes to prevent similar incidents in the future. The ruling was seen as a step toward accountability and a clear stand against discrimination. After the trial, Governor Nathaniel Brooks hosted a community workshop at the local center, where he shared his story and the significance of fighting against injustice. He began his speech with a voice both powerful and heartfelt. "I did not file this lawsuit to punish anyone. I did it because I believe people need to face the consequences of their actions and learn from them. We cannot build a better society if we continue to tolerate injustice." During the workshop, Nathaniel recounted the challenges he had faced throughout his life. He spoke about the rejections, the insults, and how he had transformed those painful experiences into motivation to create change in society. The event drew hundreds of attendees, including social activists, politicians, and everyday citizens. Many shared how Nathaniel's story had inspired them, helping them recognize the importance of standing up for fairness and equality. Although Sarah did not attend the workshop in person, she listened to his speech through a live stream, deeply moved. She realized she needed to do more to atone for her past mistakes and contribute to meaningful change. One day, Sarah received an unexpected invitation from Governor Nathaniel Brooks. He wanted to meet her at his office. Though nervous, she decided to go and face him once more. In the governor's office, the atmosphere was calm and dignified. Nathaniel greeted Sarah with a gentle smile. "You've done well so far," he said, his eyes reflecting understanding. Sarah lowered her head and replied, "I know what I've done isn't enough to make amends, but I'm doing my best to change." Nathaniel nodded and spoke in a composed tone. "I've read the reports from the nonprofit organization where you've been working. I see that you've been actively participating and helping many people. That's a good start. But remember, true change doesn't come from what others see. It comes from what you feel deep within yourself." The meeting ended with a handshake. Nathaniel not only forgave Sarah but also encouraged her to continue her journey of self-improvement. With support from Governor Nathaniel, Sarah continued her work at the nonprofit organization. She became involved in projects helping victims of discrimination, organized educational workshops on equality, and shared her story to serve as a cautionary tale for others. One day, Sarah held a workshop at a local school. Standing before hundreds of students, she recounted her mistakes, the consequences she faced, and her journey toward self-improvement. "I once thought prejudice was normal, but I was wrong. Prejudice doesn't just hurt others. It traps us within the narrow confines of our own thinking." Sarah's story moved many in the audience. She was no longer just someone who had made mistakes. She had become a source of inspiration, encouraging others to reflect on their own biases. Crystal Brew Cafe also underwent significant changes. Under pressure from public scrutiny, the owner decided to overhaul the entire operation. Staff received comprehensive training on customer service and fair treatment. The cafe also became involved in social campaigns to rebuild its reputation. For Sarah, life had turned a new page. She not only received forgiveness from Governor Nathaniel but also, more importantly, from herself. After the lawsuit and the storm of public criticism, Crystal Brew Cafe faced the necessity of comprehensive changes to survive. Charles Donovan, the cafe's owner, realized that a tarnished reputation is incredibly difficult to rebuild. However, he also saw this as an opportunity to reinvent the cafe for the better. First, he organized an all-staff meeting to announce the new management policies. Every employee, from servers to managers, was required to attend an intensive training program on social equity, diversity, and fair customer service. "We won't just be a luxury cafe anymore," Charles declared. "We will be a place where everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from, feels welcomed." The cafe was renamed Harmony Cafe, a name symbolizing unity and togetherness. The interior was redesigned, shedding the opulence of Crystal Brew in favor of a warmer, more inviting atmosphere. More importantly, Charles decided to collaborate with social organizations to transform the cafe into a community hub. Harmony Cafe would not only serve coffee but also host panel discussions, art exhibitions, and events aimed at raising awareness about equality and diversity. Although Sarah no longer worked at the cafe, she felt a sense of relief knowing that her former workplace had embraced change. She silently hoped that these reforms would help the cafe become a space where everyone felt safe and respected. A few months later, Sarah received an unexpected invitation from Harmony Cafe. The cafe was hosting a special event titled Unity and Hope to introduce its new identity to the community. Sarah was invited as an honored guest. As her story had been a significant part of the cafe's transformation, Sarah hesitated. She knew appearing in public wouldn't be easy, especially since many people still remembered her mistakes. But after many nights of reflection, she decided to attend. When she stepped into Harmony Cafe, she was astonished by the transformation. The walls were painted in warm tones, adorned with artwork celebrating love and unity. The friendly faces of the staff made the place feel completely different from the Crystal Brew she once knew. At the event, Governor Nathaniel Brooks also appeared to deliver a speech. When he saw Sarah in the crowd, he gave her a gentle smile. After his speech, he walked over to her. "I'm glad to see you here," he said. Sarah, moved, responded, "Thank you for giving me the chance to make things right. Without you, I don't know if I'd be standing here today." Nathaniel looked at her with understanding in his eyes. "We all have the opportunity to change, Sarah. What matters is that you chose the right path." Their conversation was brief but deeply meaningful. It wasn't just a reconciliation between two individuals. It became a symbol of unity and harmony within society. The event at Harmony Cafe was more than just a grand reopening. It marked the beginning of broader efforts to raise community awareness about equality and mutual respect. Governor Nathaniel Brooks continued to lead campaigns promoting diversity and combating racism. His reform policies, spanning education to labor recruitment, were widely implemented and received strong public support. Meanwhile, Sarah became an inspiration to many. She began writing for newspapers and magazines, sharing her journey from making mistakes to seeking redemption. She frequently appeared at workshops and events, offering her experiences and valuable lessons about confronting prejudice and embracing personal change. The story of Sarah and Nathaniel became a vivid example integrated into school curriculums. Teachers used it to educate students on the importance of tolerance, empathy, and social responsibility. Thanks to the relentless efforts of Nathaniel and individuals like Sarah, society began to see positive changes. Businesses, organizations, and individuals grew increasingly aware of their roles in fostering a more equitable community. A year after the event at Harmony Cafe, Sarah stood on the stage of a major conference before hundreds of attendees. Behind her, large letters on the screen read, "A Journey from Mistakes to Change." She began her speech slowly but with heartfelt emotion. "Not long ago, I made a mistake I thought I could never undo. But thanks to the forgiveness of someone I had wronged, I was given a chance to change myself. Today, I stand here to tell you, it is never too late to learn and to become better." The audience erupted into applause. Among the crowd, Governor Nathaniel Brooks sat quietly, smiling as he witnessed Sarah's growth. After the conference, Sarah and Nathaniel met once again. He congratulated her on all she had accomplished. Sarah thanked him, not only for forgiving her but for inspiring her to transform her life. The story closed with Sarah and Nathaniel walking out of the hall together, looking toward a brighter future. Their journey wasn't just a story of two individuals but a powerful symbol of change and hope for society as a whole.